Welcome to Game Changers. I'm Noam Weissman, Head of Education here at Unpacked. And today we have Tal Ben-Shahar with us. Tal, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Noam. It's great to be here.
Before we get started with this conversation, I want to make sure that everyone subscribes to us on YouTube at youtube.com/unpacked. And you can find us on Instagram at unpacked.media and at unpackedmedia on Twitter. Tal Ben-Shahar is famous for lots of things, some powerful books on happiness, and having been the professor of, at the time, the most well-attended class at Harvard with 855 students. So, Tal, thank you so much for joining us. And how are you feeling today? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing okay, all things considered, experiencing the ups and downs, a bit of a roller coaster, but I think many of us are.
Yes, I'm definitely one of those people. But I want to jump right into a question that I have for you. How do you find happiness in tough times?
Yeah, so the challenge is, if not to find happiness, to increase our happiness levels or to increase our well-being. And there are many things that we can do in order to do so. The first thing is to accept any and all emotions. One of the things that happens in difficult times like these is that emotions become more extreme and more complex. So, for example, people are experiencing more anxiety than usual, whether it's over their health, their loved ones' health, whether it's about financial security going into the future. So there is more anxiety. At the same time, there is also more gratitude that many people are feeling, or sometimes even happiness and joy. However, very often with the gratitude or with the joy comes guilt. How can I be grateful now? How can I be happy now when so many other people are struggling? So more extreme emotions and more complex. And the key to handling this flood of complexity is by giving ourselves what I've come to call the permission to be human. Allowing ourselves to experience any and all emotions. Because what happens when we reject emotions, when we reject painful emotions like frustration or like anxiety, these emotions intensify. It's when we accept, when we embrace them, that they don't overstay their welcome and they flow out just as they flowed in. While the first step is to embrace and accept any and all emotions, again, painful or pleasurable, the second step is to actively seek or inspire well-being. For example, a regular physical exercise. Usually when I ask people, when are the times when you're least likely to exercise, they would say, well, when I'm very busy, when I'm very stressed. Well, these are the most important times to exercise. Now is such a time. So exercise, whether it's going outside if you can, or if you have to stay indoors, then doing one of the thousands of programs that are available on YouTube. The key is to move it. Moving it, exercising has the same effect on our psychological well-being as our most powerful psychiatric medication. Additionally, expressing gratitude on a regular basis. So people who keep a gratitude journal, whether it's every day or even once a week, are happier, more optimistic, more successful. Their immune system is actually stronger. They're physically healthier, and they are kinder and more generous, more pleasant to be around. So there are many benefits to expressing gratitude. And that could be, this is the idea behind Moderni. Start your day with a gratitude prayer, and your day will be a lot happier and healthier. In addition, another thing is relationships. Relationships are the number one predictor of well-being. And it's very difficult to have the kind of relationships or to express our relationships in the same way as we do normally, by being together, by hugging, and so on. However, if they have to be virtual, then so be it. One of the things that I do in developing the whole field of happiness studies, which I'm doing through the Happiness Studies Academy, is dispute many of the conventions about what happiness is and is not. So many people equate happiness with pleasure. with a good feeling, and in which case, yeah, just inject the dopamine, increase the serotonin, and you're all good. Happiness is much more than that. Happiness also has to do with a sense of meaning and purpose. Now, we don't always experience pleasure when we're doing something meaningful. You take an athlete for whom it's very meaningful to excel. They go through a lot of emotional pain in order to achieve their goals. Now, are they not happy? No, they're very happy. They're fulfilled, because happiness is much more than just the good feeling, just the pleasure. Happiness is about meaning. Happiness is about relationships. Happiness is about learning and growing. These are all important components of happiness. In other words, happiness is not a unidimensional construct, i.e. just pleasure. Happiness is a multidimensional construct, and we need to take all the elements into consideration, pleasure being one of them, but it's just one of them.
So you grew up in Israel. Did growing up in Israel teach you anything about happiness and well-being?
Growing up in Israel taught me the most important lessons when it comes to happiness and well-being. See, there is a lot of research today on the happiest countries in the world. And the happiest countries in the world are countries like Denmark, Norway, Costa Rica, Australia, and Israel. And the question is, why these countries and not others? Why Israel when we have our fair share of challenges? So why Colombia with their the issues that they're going through? And the answer is that the number one predictor of happiness on a national level, relationships, social support. Growing up, my first memories have to do with relationships, with obviously with my friends, and also with friends coming over to our house, to my parents or to us and staying over. It's a communal society, and this emphasis on relationships is, to my mind, and again, this is what the research shows, the most important thing we can learn and practice if our concern is happiness. You find, for example, in Denmark that 93% of Danes are members of social clubs, active members of social clubs. So community there is important, and that explains happiness levels. In Israel, we meet people, whether it's we're at my parents every Friday night with the whole mishpocha, whether it's the chevre, the friends that are together a lot, and we go out. I remember one of my business partners who's British came to spend a few days in Israel, and so he was there throughout the week, and then he came again and again, and on the third time he said, "Tal, you guys in Israel, you're always partying." And I must say, I didn't know what he was talking about, because he didn't come over holidays. He wasn't there over Yom Ha'atzmaut or Purim when we really party. So I asked him, what do you mean? And he says, you're always going out, you're always meeting friends, and we take it for granted in Israel, and we shouldn't.
I want to quibble with something here. There's a phrase in the Mishnah, which is rabbinic law, rabbinic ideas from Avot, in which there's a phrase that says Ezehu Ashir Hasameach B'chalko, which means who is rich, he who is happy with his or her lot. Is that true?
Yeah, there's a lot of research and conversation around the relationship between wealth and happiness. And generally what the research shows is the following. It shows that money doesn't matter for happiness, except for providing for our basic needs. So, if there's a person who has no money, and you to bring bread, food to their families, and you give them an extra $1,000 a month, of course that's going to contribute to their well-being, to their happiness. However, once basic needs are met, money doesn't contribute to happiness. Now, does that negate the idea that Ezeu Ashir Asameach B'chelko, who is rich, the one who's happy, satisfied with his her lot? No, there is a lot to it. Much of happiness is determined by by our ability to savor, to appreciate what we have. And therefore you have very wealthy, very successful, seemingly individuals that seemingly have it all and who are miserable. And yet you have people who have very little and yet never cease to celebrate life. And in other words, it's our subjective evaluation of what we have that's actually more important than what we have objectively. One of the best ways of increasing levels of well-being is through generosity, gemilut chasadim, helping the other. When I give, I'm given right back. And today we have a lot of research showing just how true that is. When we give, we receive with interest.
So much good advice. I'm going to do a rapid fire thing here with you. Tal Ben-Shahar's morning routine starts with
meditation, taking 10 minutes, just focusing on the breath going in and out. And that, I feel, creates a good foundation for the rest of the day.
One thing that the world does not know about Tal Ben-Shahar is
I'm a wicked backgammon player. In fact, when I served in the military, I won the Olga Open Championship.
Judaism's biggest contribution to the world is
the Ten Commandments, and in particular, Shabbat. There is more and more research today showing just how important recovery, taking a day off, is for relationships, for mental health, and for physical health.
What is something people get wrong about you, Tal?
You know, when people hear what I do or attend my lectures, they very often think that I'm happy all the time, that I experience a constant high. I always remind them that there are only two kinds of people who do not experience painful emotions such as sadness or anger or frustration or envy or anxiety. Two kinds of people: psychopaths and dead people. I'm neither. I experience painful emotions as well.
That's what you said earlier. You said you want to give people permission to feel the things that they feel. So
permission to be human.
Permission to be human. Exactly. So Tal, tell us what are you working on next?
So I'm working on creating a happiness studies field, a field that will incorporate what psychologists have to say about happiness, what theologians have to say about it, what philosophers and neuroscientists all have to say about living the good life. Bring them all together into one coherent interdisciplinary field of study, happiness studies.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the academy?
Yes, so I co-founded the Happiness Studies Academy, and what we do is we provide a year-long certificate program that takes the student through the theory and, even more importantly, the practice of happiness studies so that they can help themselves become happier and so that they can help others increase their levels of well-being.
Incredible. Tal, you've done so much for the world in helping people become happier, helping people feel what they need to feel, and giving people the permission to be human, like you say. Thank you so much for everything you do for the world. And thank you so much for joining our show, Game Changers. You really are a game changer. So thank you.
Thank you very much.